Hi, it's Cayman Reynolds, and welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm here alone. Laurel is gone to do some shopping that she needed to do. Jimmy's a little under the weather, and it's my job to make sure that he's being well taken care of. And so I'm doing just that right now. I'm sitting here talking with you all. He's feeling a little bit better. He's really takes after his grandpa. He doesn't get sick very long. It's just like a half day, full day event for him, maybe sometimes 2 days. But, anyways, there's a lot of bee stuff to talk about. There's a lot of Bee Expo stuff to talk about. And I hope that you all have some questions for us. I definitely have a lot of things to share with you tonight. And so I'm just going to check real quick to make sure that my post in the Bee Expo group was released. Okay. Looks like it is. And I hope many of you are enjoying the app. I'm telling you, it has been really cool. I am not really much of an app person. Actually, I avoid them at all times when I can, but I've never needed to use one for a conference before, and it's already looking really fun. There's a lot of interactive stuff on there. And if you purchase a ticket with the Bee Expo, then you should have had a ticket to that same email sent to you with the access to the app. And in that app, you can schedule out your agenda for the talks. You can literally go through and go, I definitely want to avoid Cayman Reynolds opening ceremony. I want to go listen to Bob Benny. I want to see Maggie Gill. I want to go attend this panel. And you can customize it just for you. You also can set up events with your state or your province or wherever you're from and ensure that you can hang out with people that you'd like to meet from your area. And there'll be group photos. There's all kinds of cool things. And what this app is going to allow is even more of the fun, not planned by us events. And half the time, those are the most fun things that happen because we're really doing the big stuff. We're handling the event, the big logistics, but a lot of the really fun relationship, personal stuff happens between you all. And so the app is a great way to help facilitate that communication. And I hope that you guys will give it a check, even if it's not something that you're really into. Also, there's a lot of vendors posting in there as well. I want to say thanks to our app sponsors and all that kind of stuff that have helped. So we have a lot of people in here, a lot of our members, a lot of people commenting. And so 12 inches of snow in the last 24 hours. Well, that's what you get for living in Northwest Illinois. I mean, what do you expect? I hope that you guys are doing okay. That's a lot of snow. My kids would absolutely love it. Oh, Josh Hager is in the house. Tons of our friends, Brian, Clay, Jonathan, Bald Eagle, Apiaries, happy post-Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you got well rested and your turkey was tender and delicious. I'm not sure about the turkey being tender, but it was delicious. No, I didn't. No honey as a basting foundation, but we did have honey. My mom makes a honey bread as well, which we definitely had, and it was awesome. It is like dessert. I could blow up eating that bread. All right. So just going through looking at the questions here. Yeah. And this is one of the ways that the vendors are going to be communicating with people through the app. And so those who are coming to the event, there's also some individual events with companies. They're doing some demos on a product or some education. And they'll post it on their Facebook groups and stuff like that, but sometimes you miss the Facebook stuff. And so this is just another way to keep in touch. Hey, Brian, question. If you have a lot of moisture inside the hive, what will help with that? Well, why is there a lot of moisture in the hive? I guess would be my first question. Is if it's just condensation, if the bees are just generating a lot of condensation, or if you're in a really humid area, which would help with that as well. One of the best things that can help with it is keeping the bees close to an insulated lid. And so if they're in the bottom box, which is typically where they're at, that's where my bees are at if they're in a double deep situation, because the top box is mostly plugged and it's very natural for them to start off in the bottom and work their way up as it gets cooler in the winter. And for big colonies, that works just fine. Big colonies deal with a lot of stuff, especially in mild areas like Tennessee, quite well. Where it gets really dangerous is further up north. You can have moisture issues, but I've just never, in 20 something years of beekeeping, seen moisture issues in Tennessee affect a good, healthy colony, unless it's like you have a leaky lid and the bees are getting rained on. That's a different situation. But we have a lot of colonies that are in singles, and we've started doing that a lot more the last several years. And we've seen a lot less moisture related issues because those bees are right up against the lid. They keep that lid warm if they're a strong colony. Weak colonies can't do this. And especially if you have a little insulative piece, um, that heat just stays right there at the top, and that condensation doesn't form above the bees. You'll still have moisture in the hive, but it'll hit the walls and it'll go down. No big deal. As far as advanced wintering advice, that is not my area of expertise. That's why I follow Etienne Tardif. I still learn a lot of stuff from him. He has a YouTube channel where he's north of the 60th parallel in the Yukon. And he doesn't even run upper entrances in his hives up there. And he has humidity sensors, moisture sensors, CO2 sensors. This guy, really, he might have a problem, but he's going to be at our show again this year because he's a very smart and very nice guy. All right. Hey, we got several people in the house. All right. Hey, Brian with Flower Street Farm, if you don't mind, go ahead and send me one more email. I, for the life of me, cannot find that last email that you sent me, and I've been looking for it. If you don't mind sending that to me again, or just saying, "Hey, Cayman," it'll bump it back up to the top. I don't know why I struggle so much finding emails. We have so many of our members in the house. I want to say thank you all so very much, and let's get to the main topic of the evening, which is, there are several, but bring your questions. Any questions at all? Uh-oh. Okay, that's not Laurel. I thought for a second Laurel messaged me. She's not here, so number one, for anybody who is that's watching this and is thinking about getting a ticket, or is just already going to get a ticket, they just haven't done it. Ticket sales do go up tomorrow. We've seen a huge surge in ticket sales, like we always do last minute, and I'm guilty of that. So not pointing fingers, but don't forget, because they do go up, and make sure that you get your tickets. So if you have a buddy that you know's going, maybe double check and make sure they've gotten their ticket. We want people to get the earlier pricing on it and all of that. But we also have to have these things in place. Otherwise, 70% of the people will just wait till the last minute, and we can't plan. We don't have time for a lot of this stuff. And I literally just talked to a friend of mine who I'm hiring to do some work to answer all the questions, because there's people that just can't figure the app out, and there's people who are asking for refunds, the medical, something's going up, or hey, we got a grandchild being born, so unfortunately we have to miss it. And so, just, it happens. But Chris is working on so much other stuff. I'm trying to work on several other things to make the expo bigger and better. And so just, anyone who has those issues, please be patient with us. There's no reason to email us 3 times within 24 hours saying that you can't get a hold of us, especially on a Saturday. You know who you are. So tickets go up. The VIP dinners is on Thursday. The Beehive and barbecue. Of course, all the VIPs will be there. I think there's one so far that won't be able to do it, but they are going to try to work it out. But it's going to be a great event. It's going to be fun. That is mostly sold out. I say mostly. There's about 20, a little under 20% of the spots left. So we haven't had it open that long either. So if you're serious about it, get it done. However, I am considering maybe opening up a spot for Wednesday. Chris is probably going to have a heart attack if he's watching. But we are doing a vendor event on Wednesday. However, we are thinking about maybe opening up to a handful of attendees who would like to do something extra, or if the Thursday fills up completely, maybe that's something else they could get if they couldn't get the Thursday. but that has not been announced, and we may or may not do that. The hotel info. So on the website, we have the hotels and whatnot. The Crown Plaza still has room, and they're opening up rooms every week. And so if it does say it's full out, full up, and full, of people, just give it a few days, and send us an email, and we'll do our best to get it opened up as quickly as possible. But their system just it's every week. But if we keep going at it, I'd say we'd be able to get another 100 people into the Crown Plaza between now and then. So if you really want to be in there where the VIP dinners are going and hang out with the VIPs in between hours, that would be, even if it's not the VIP dinner, they're going to all be there. One of the main reasons I'm holding this live chat tonight is about the North American Honey Bar, and I need to grab that link really quickly. Let me make sure I've got it. Nope, this is the YouTube link. I've already lost it. This is why I have Chris to help me, and Laurel, and basically everybody else. Some person said, don't worry, Cayman, this isn't your first rodeo. I'm like, yeah, but there's always a different boulder ride every time. That's the problem. All right, here it is. So this is one of the newest things that we're doing. I think you all are going to really enjoy this. It is so cool, and I think it'll be a nice addition. So I'm posting this down in the comments below as a document, and please read it over really well. And if you would like to represent your state with that honey, that would be excellent. And so basically what this is a North American honey bar. Every state and Canadian province, hopefully, will have some honey, multiple honeys representing their state or province. And so we require honey from all over the country and in Canada to do this. So we need your help to do it. And we need probably about 9 to 10 1-pound jars. That's what we're shooting for. And there could be a couple different ways. What we would prefer is, if you're coming, and just read the stuff too, is bring a jar that's got a wide mouth like this. We've elected to not do creamed honey. If it's starting to crystallize a little bit and it's soft and it's still easy to scoop with a little taster, then that's perfectly fine. But we can't have any hard set crystallized honey. And we also can accept squeeze bottles. This is hot honey. Please don't do that. But the 1-pound squeeze jars, we can go a little bit bigger than those sizes, but we have to have something that's easy to access. We can't have lids that are like this one right here, because we just can't get the tasters down into there very good. And so we would really like folks to fill that out. Let us know where your honey is coming from. And please also keep in mind that not everybody will get accepted, because if we have 50 people from Kentucky apply, that's just not going to make sense. We can't, that's just too many honeys. And so at that point, we're just going to select the more unique stuff, and not knocking anybody's honey. Some of the best honey that wins our black jar is often a multi-floral wildflower, and that's what I produce, and it's the best honey the world's ever tasted. However, we're looking for ways to be able to showcase unique, different things that are a little bit more particular if possible. So, for example, Tupelo, sourwood, even stuff that's spotted lanternfly honey that has some spotted lanternfly. We want to be able to have a smorgasbord of different regions, different types of honey, and we really could use your help to make it possible. Paula Messer is our honey bar coordinator, and she is going to do a great job. I've worked with Paula and other organizations in the past where she's invited me to speak, and I've just seen her work. She's going to do a great job. Yeah, tulip poplar. And so just send in and fill that out, please. We really could use your help into having the best honey bar in North America. And it'll just be really neat to get to try different honeys. Bob Benny's already committed. Mr. Ed's already committed. We have several of the VIPs. I'll have some of my honey there. And I'm going to try to get Gus Mitchell to have some of his, and maybe even a few other odds and ends from Tennessee. So look that over, please. And if you'd like to contribute, fill that out. And even if it's just one jar, that's fantastic. We can have multiple. If you have something really unique like meadow foam or orange blossom, and you'd like to donate 2 or 3 jars, we probably would be very excited about that too, because a lot of people will be looking to try those more prominently known honeys. So thank you for your attention to that matter. But that is linked down below. We will also be doing a post on that and share with all your friends. We can receive honey through shipment if you would like to contribute to it in that way. If you're not coming to the show, or if you're flying, it'd just be easier to ship it. But we are going to defer to honeys that don't have to be shipped first, just to save us logistically. And I am putting the form down once again into the comments, and I will raise it onto the screen. So that is the form right there. This will be put on the Expo website and in the Facebook group, and probably sent out in an email to everybody. And I want to apologize on behalf of all the email services. They stink. So this is our 6th conference, and let me tell you, we do not have a great means of communicating with you all through email. It works for most people, but it always seems like a good 10%, even if it's just 5% of the people, do not receive our emails. And we don't know if it's on our end or if it's on your end, but people just aren't getting them. But some people are and having a great experience. And this has happened for years. We have looked into it. We pay for better email services to make it as effective as possible. And we don't know what else we can do to help make that better. Therefore, the best way to know what's going on is, I know it's a pain, use our app, use the Facebook group, try to catch these lives if you can, and peruse the website from time to time. I want to say a big thank you once again to Paul Martin. Who cares about Christmas? The expo is only 39 days away. Oh my goodness, we're under 40 days. Thank you, Paul, again, for supporting us and being one of our members, and for coming to the Bee Expo once again. I am sure I'll run into you there. 39 days until the most fun of the year. It really is going to be fun. I've got some great coordinators. We have a lot of good volunteers, and every year it's turned to be more and more fun for Laurel and I got to say thank you to all of our staff. Okay, I may have missed some questions, and so I'm going to try to go back through some of them, and then if anyone sees where I've missed theirs, just put it in the bottom again. And it'd be easier if you put like Cayman in front of it. It just stands out a little bit more. Paula Messer, you got this. Woo, yeah, we got this. Thank you for your help, Paula. And there's Randy, the Tar Heel beekeeper. He helps us out mostly by intimidating people into submission. He also has some really good sourwood honey too. Problem is, Jimmy eats all of it. Yeah, so we've looked into that, and maybe we'll offer that into the future. We've said that in the past. The problem is, it's usually around $30,000 just for the most base package for that. And so to add that on, we'd have to sell a certain amount to kind of justify that, even just to not have to eat all $30,000. But that is something that we possibly might add next year, and we really need to look into it. And I've said this in the past, I'm going to say it again, we're going to be reducing our colony numbers. I can't be a small professional beekeeper running a few hundred hives and doing all this. So we'll be reducing down so we can try to do stuff like that better and provide more opportunities for people. All right, someone from Wisconsin. So I was just talking to Jed Thorne, and he is announcing his new creaming machine, and it's supposed to have a certain design. I don't know everything about it yet. I've been given just enough information to be dangerous, and I've never creamed honey before. But the information that I have gotten is that this is supposed to be one of the fastest creamers on the market because it does something that the other models do not. I don't know what that is, but it's going to be launching at the Bee Expo. You'll be able to see the first model there. And it is made in Wausau, Wisconsin. And so something for you Wisconsin people to be proud of is one of the few American companies is in Wisconsin. Another Wisconsin set of folks. So there's a lot of great beekeepers in Wisconsin. By the way, and I usually don't do a lot of plugs for other conferences during my conference, but I really like the guys with the Midwest Honeybee Expo. Doug and William are great guys. And their Midwest Honeybee Expo is in Madison. I will be one of the keynote speakers there. I'll be talking on what it takes to keep your bees sustainable and profitable. A full season lecture on how you can get extra comb, how you can get bigger clusters in the winter, all the strategies that we use and learned over the last couple of decades to make it to where we have big bees and they look good, because you're going to have colonies in all of our yards, 10 hives. You're going to have some that are just rock stars and some in between and some that are dinks. And why is that? And the more we understand why that is and what we can do to prevent some of that, the more we're going to see uniformity in those big clusters going into winter. And so I'll be up there in Wisconsin. I'll also be talking about the art of feeding and why it still is important, even though that's a pretty debatable topic, but gosh, it works. All right, here's a question. The Major's Bees, thoughts on moving colonies from a single deep into double nukes, 4/4 like Michael Palmer has? Well, I don't see any problem with that. The Major's Bees, in some ways, the thermal dynamics will be better, especially if they're not quite dominating that single deep box. Let's say it's a 10 frame deep, I assume it is, and maybe you only have 6 to 7 frames of bees in there. A 4/4 might be better. Honestly, the more compact they are, a lot of times the better in winter. I love it when they, and I use the word dominate the space, but I'm opening up some of my singles and there's just 9 to 10 frames of bees in them in November. That's dominating their space, their cavity space. Those bees don't die in winter unless they run out of food or get rained on. And not in Tennessee, anyways. And there's a lot of colonies. We're running 6/6s, but most of them we reduce down to just a 6 frame. And so there, we see advantages, especially on that first round of brood, when we have a 6 frame cluster in a 6 frame box versus a 10 frame box. They dominate the space, and it's all math. And so the quicker they get out of the gate, the faster the multiplying happens, getting ready for that honey crop for us in April. So I see no issues with that whatsoever. Just try to get a day that's somewhat a little bit more agreeable. Even the 50s would be nice. I do it all the time in the 50s. 60s would be better, and chuck them in there. Hey, Keith. Good to see you. All right, back to it. Thanks everybody for the kind comments and stuff. David Hunter, so many friends in here. It's hard to keep up with everybody. Mr. Dan Schneider, we have a real winter starting here, but I wouldn't change that for the world. Northern beekeepers rock on Wisconsin. That's right. Wisconsin's a great beekeeping state too. Your winters are a little crazy though. I do love some extra cold winter just for a little bit here in Tennessee because it makes a big difference on the small hive beetle population. Just getting one good cold snap down here really impacts what the next season is going to be like for small hive beetle. When we were back around the 2008 to 2015 mark, we were having even before 2008, really, we had some of those really mild winters and some hot seasons, and the small hive beetles were way worse during those years. Cayman, how did you do this year with your Wisconsin harvest? Did you keep any hives up here for the winter? Absolutely not. Do you think I'm crazy? No, I'm not keeping them up there. I brought them all back down. The flow was not as good as it was the year before. The fall flow primarily. I didn't do much fall goldenrod at all. And the year before, the goldenrod was pretty good. So that kind of spoiled me. The big colonies did great, which is pretty much how it always works. The colonies that were kind of on the edge on food came back real light. And I had to feed about 300 gallons immediately to those colonies over the first couple of weeks. But they look really good now. So it wasn't the best year for me in Wisconsin, but I really enjoyed going up there and learning, because to me, beekeeping like that is what I've always wanted to do. I never had any desire to be on a computer all day like I've been basically all week. That was what my dad was a computer programmer. I wasn't going to be like my dad. I wasn't going to be trapped to an office. Man, what is it? Man schemes and God laughs, or something like that. but no, it was good. It was good. Not, but we had a bad year in Tennessee this year too. I averaged like 50 odd pounds in Tennessee. It was a really underachieving year, and that's just how it is in beekeeping sometimes. So it is what it is. Hey Eric, the weather is too cold to feed 2 to 1. You could put a jar over the top of them. Honestly, if I was going to do that, if you had any syrup, I'd probably like Pro Sweet or something. I just maybe put a jar on top of them, but they just won't take it when it's this cold. If we get back up into around 55 on for several days, they'll take it down super slowly. But if we can get into, the 60s, especially the 70s for a handful of days, then we definitely could get another warm spell. Then yeah, you could get some more of that in there. And I've never seen any problem doing that. I was feeding 2 to 1 until just basically until it cooled down again on this last spell. And my bees took it all. I fed quite a bit. No nicknames for Maine. All right. So greetings from Queensland, Australia. Have you ever come across honey in a super that had a pungent fruit smell? I can't think of a better description for it. It was just one frame. I haven't, but I don't know much about Australian beekeeping. And what little I do know about Australia with beekeeping and outside of beekeeping is you all do some weird stuff that only happens in Australia. There are some crops in Australia that the bees come in with fermented honey. And so I'm not saying that's what it is. But we do have up here in Tennessee and like up in Wisconsin, we have goldenrod. And I mean, you can smell it on a good day, 40 to 50 feet from the hive. And it's just so pungent. There's also another plant or two that does that as well. So I imagine that you probably have some type of interesting floral source that just really has a lot of smell to it. And, let me know how it tastes. I'd be really curious. Good luck getting that. Hey, thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for saying that. I hope you all are doing good in Texas and happy beekeeping down there. Please bring some questions. So it's your first year, and hoping they survive the winter. They all looked great a couple weeks ago. Now currently studying up on queen grafting videos. Ah, cool. That is one of my favorite things to do is making splits. And I'll tell you, everybody is going to lose bees. So I did my first year and my second year. You know what? I still lose bees. So just expect that. But also, you're looking in the right direction because we have to not look at bees like we look at cows or chickens or dogs or cats. Bees have a very short life cycle in comparison to a lot of things. And so queens only last a couple of years, especially if you're further south. They don't last quite as long because they work harder. It's math. And then also, bees themselves don't live but a handful of weeks. And so there's different things that happens that'll cause us to lose bees from time to time, but bees are really good at multiplying. And so most great beekeepers that don't have to buy bees every year eventually learn how maybe not to raise their own queens, but they definitely learn how to make their own splits. And so go ahead and learn up on that. And maybe you can find some people in your area that have a little bit more experience that'll let you join in with their bees when they're making splits. And so you can get some firsthand knowledge as well. And I would say the number one thing that really helped us be sustainable is always focusing on having a great queen in there or having a backup split with the great queen as insurance. And then keep making sure that we keep our mites low and good nutrition. Never letting the bees get low on food. They just eat, eat, eat. But there's a lot of learning to it. And if you stick with it, it's so rewarding. There's so much fun to beekeeping. And we definitely need a lot more beekeepers. And Texas is a great state for beekeeping. So thank you for joining. Keep your questions coming. All right. Questions. Okay, good question about the expo. Are the in-person deals typically any better or worse than the online pre-order sales? No, they're typically very much the same. There are some companies that don't post their deals before the show, and so you may find some stuff at the show, but it's typically the best deals, like say woodenware and stuff, they're already posted. That's pretty competitive. It's mostly the smaller companies that don't post early. Some people just don't spend a lot of time on the app or social media and various things like that, and that's their business. I really am shocked at how many companies do not invest the time to spruce up their, just not even like their deals, but just their presence, their social media presence. I know a lot of people, and I'm one of them, do not like all the social media stuff. It's a lot of work and I don't necessarily enjoy it, but it's 2025, nearly 2026. This is how we communicate now. Get with the times or fall behind. But no, if you can log into the app, should be able to check your email for where you got your ticket from. Log into the app. Some of the deals are on there. There's stuff on the website. Call the companies and ask them, because some of them, like Better Bee, you got to call. You need to, you know, date it. You got to call. Maybe it's Better Bee too. Some companies like Man Lake, definitely Hilco. They were the first ones to ever do that, and a few others actually have a specialized page on their website for the Bee Expo deals. But if you're really interested in a product and you're not sure, just call the company if they're going to be there and ask them if there's some type of special. And sometimes it's just shipping, sometimes it's 10% off. But I can safely say that we have the best deals in the nation under one roof, and I think it's by a pretty long shot. And I really appreciate the vendors for doing that. We try to keep the price affordable for the vendors and also bring in a lot of people, so it's worth their while. It's kind of an interesting dance, so to speak. No, I never did hear who won that at all. I'll have to ask Lawrence the next time I find out. Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy. Hey, I own it though. You guys would die in our summers though, Dan. You would, our Julys and August, you Wisconsin people would just melt like a popsicle stick. Or a popsicle on a popsicle stick. Yeah, there we go. Oh goodness, I gotta get down here a little bit more. Grafting is great. I never need to buy bees. Yep. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Whoa, I'm behind. Speaking of Canadians, we want more Canadians at the show. One of our vendors is going to be announcing soon the Apa Verde folks. They're going to be giving away a couple of tickets, and we're going to be doing a few other things for Canadians. So be on the lookout for that. We definitely need some Canadian honey coming down to the show. We're working with a lot of Canadians right now. Every year we've gotten more and more to our show, and we hope that if you're considering and able, definitely do so. But we're going to be offering some free tickets to Canadians to come to the event. We do that with a couple other bee organizations sometimes as raffles and giveaways and various things. So some of our Canadian vendors have asked for that, and we would definitely like to do that. We definitely, if nothing else, we need Canadians to possibly, if they're willing to, ship us some of their cool Canadian honey down so we can really showcase the Canadian side of the North America part of this show. So make sure you Canadians show off your patriotic honey and all that kind of stuff, and we appreciate that very much. Just no Ian Stepler canola honey. We only want your finest, not that bottom of the barrel stuff. Hey, so I've actually been talking to a lot of folks about this, and I want to say folks, not just people like me, but people smarter than me by a long shot. Researchers like Dr. Frank Rankovich. I'm actually going to be on the phone with Izzy Hall tomorrow, and she's going to be talking a little bit about this and other things going on in the industry. So there's a myriad of reasons for this, and I'm not sure anyone knows 1,000% what happened. But I will say this, though. We didn't see massive increases in shortages in a lot of areas. So there was losses, and it wasn't good. But not everybody experienced those either. The part of the problem is amatraz resistance, and some of it could be a poor product because a lot of the amatraz that is used in the commercial industry is not legal. The problem with this is it's coming from Mexico a lot of times, and nobody knows if it's been cut or diluted. There's a lot of what ifs with that product. And then not every beekeeper mixes up their formula the same way. And there is mites showing amitraz resistance as well, which is the active ingredient in Apivar. Now they've got Apivar 2.0. I have heard for some researchers, the way that they tweaked it, it's working pretty darn good. The original Apivar hasn't been working for a lot of people the last several years, but the 2.0 is supposed to be working really good. And I've heard that the Amiflex product that is a gel is supposed to be able to be purchased without a registered user permit and needing a vet or something like that. So that's exciting if you're interested in using that kind of stuff. But part of the losses were because of this resistance. There was also a lot of other factors. There was that hurricane over in Florida, and it damaged other states as well. And that knocked out a lot of fall forage, knocked out some colonies, it weakened them. And there are other events. So I think it was a few different things going against the commercial bee industry, but it was pretty rough for some operations for sure. So I don't know 100% what happened. But at the same time, there was a lot of commercial beekeepers I talked to that had great overwintering. I had great success, but some of my buddies didn't. So uh, they haven't identified any new, to my knowledge, pathogens or pests. I think it's just a natural viruses got too high because of too high of varroa loads, and possible more susceptibility due to stress, and that could be nutritional stress. Old guys like me don't use apps anyways. I know. But sometimes an old dog can learn a new trick. But maybe not Dan, but other old dogs. Cayman, is anyone going to have expo deals on Instant Vap turbos? So, I know that he just released, I actually posted it because Larabi's is our platinum sponsor for the lanyards. But I'm not sure if there is a discount on the Instant Vap turbos for the show. I haven't double checked that. So, but I know their deals are up, and I think they're $45 off some of the units, and maybe I think it's $50 off on maybe the Instant Vap Lite. So just you'll have to double check me on a lot of this stuff. There's just so many of those I cannot keep up. Cayman, on average, what month do you start your splits and nukes in your area? I usually start them about almost always the third week of March. And I need to do that to prevent swarming in my big colonies. And I also want to do that so that they're ready to sell by the end of April if I have a decent average year. And so that's a good time for me to do it. And honestly, it works really good. I know some people want to keep their colonies at full strength to get that big first early crop, but it's just not worth it to me. I'd rather run more bees and make slightly less honey per one, but not have to deal with a fraction of the swarming because I've cut them back so hard. And I have extra deep combs every year. I always have a bunch of nice drawn combs in my back pocket because we spend time drawing comb in summer. And so since I have these extras, I just pull out the split, which cuts them back, really retards that swarming impulse. And then I put in some empty combs so the queen can lay it up. That's the number one reason they swarm, is because the amount of open brood, it goes down. Queen runs out of room to lay, backfill, whatever the reason, and that ratio of open larvae drops, and then that really triggers it. The pheromone profile changes within the colony. I'm sure there's a more technical way to say that, but this isn't the technical beekeeping channel. This is the Cayman Reynolds channel. You get what you get. Hi from Chile. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate that. Hey, thanks for saying that, Paula. So again, Paula Messer is our coordinator for the North American Honey Bar. Super excited to see that. It's going to be beautiful and represent each state awesomely. And also the Canadians and their provinces as well. We're hoping to get a great display from each area. And we've got flags, each state flag, and we have Canadian flags for the Canadian section. We may get some for the provinces of Canada, but honestly, I started looking at them and I got really confused. So I might need some help from some Canadians in that regard. I didn't realize there's as many provinces as there were, but I'm learning. It's good. I'm getting educated. But we have our first honeys entered in, and we really appreciate those people getting at it because we don't have a lot of time. All right. Uncle Junior has got some coffee money for us again. Thank you so much, Uncle Junior. Laurel loves her coffee. I do too, but I can't get it by myself. I got to take her with me, so that's perfect. There is a coffee shop here in Gainesboro, and they're a good family business and very affordable. We can easily, I could get something for her and myself and probably somebody else with that money. Thank you so much. Moving on. 21st Bee. They are the folks that sell the strongest frames, to my knowledge, period. So strong. I mean, if you hit somebody with them, you'll probably go into jail. Like for life. They might take them out. So you got to be careful. Don't throw frames at people. Hey, I actually don't wrap my hives in winter. So there are covers and different things like that. Also, do you use a screen bottom board? Not sure what the temps are like where you're at. So screen bottom boards do have some advantages, especially in Texas on really hot days, because it can help the colony ventilate. The problem of it is in winter times, especially in windy areas, it can be a negative. I would recommend putting an insert, it probably came with one, and put that in there to help keep that wind from getting up in there and disrupting the colony. As far as wrapping our hives, I never have wrapped them here in Tennessee. There are some advantages to insulation for sure. They do eat less. Texas is not one of the states that really requires it at all. Definitely, I don't think Tennesseans need to do it either. But if you're looking for the best bang for your buck on insulation, it's always the lid. All the heat from the bees goes north. There's very little bit that escapes out of the side of the colony. And the bees don't heat the entire hive. So if we can keep that heat down and basically it hits that insulative lid or inner cover, that's going to really help them recycle some of that heat and be more efficient. And so you can totally do that if you have a telescoping cover, which most new beekeepers do. You can get a polystyrene board or an insulative board. You'll see their foam boards you get at Lowe's or places like that. And you have R5, R10, and various R ratings. If you want to start getting somewhere, R5 is a good place to start. Your lid is usually about R1. A 3/4 inch board is about R1. And so a little bit will help. But honestly, if you're going to use those foam boards, you got to paint them very well because otherwise bees and ants and other things, if they get a hold of them, will chip it away at them. And the sun will nuke those foam boards because it has no UV protection at all. So if you're going to really spend a few dollars on it, but you don't want to spend a ton, that's the way to do it. Wrapping your hives in Texas is really overkill, but you can totally do it. It's just money. And honestly, I'd put it towards more bees because you can't have too many. No. My wife begs to disagree. I've talked to Canadians before. Does that get me a free ticket? No, that's going to make it to where we're going to charge you more, Tom, because you're such a disruptor. Honestly, if it wasn't for your nice wife, we wouldn't probably let you in the door. Let's see here. Didn't make it, huh? Hey, Jason, we would really appreciate that. Canada has some really unique honeys, and we would love to see some of them at our show. And make sure, everybody, that you have them labeled properly for your location. That's the rule that the Expo Center has given to us. It doesn't have to be for the state of Kentucky because we're not selling it there, of course. We're not doing anything with your honey except letting people, taste it and stuff. But it does need to be labeled for your location. And to rep your brand, because somebody's probably going to love it and maybe contact you and go, hey, I've got to get some more of this honey. You never know. Yep, Chris has done it. Everyone give a quiet or do it. Make a lot of noise in your house. I don't care. For Chris Medeiros, he's done a great job bringing us into the whatever century we're in now, the crazy one. The app and the website, excuse me, is really good, very good. He just got back from vacation, so no mercy. I'm going to work him to death tomorrow. No, we can actually have grafts in by them, the majors bees. It's so cold outside when we're doing those grafts. In March, we get all kinds of weather. So I could be grafting when it's in the 70s and sometimes in the 80s in March. But then it'll drop down and we'll have some days where, it could even drop down into the upper 20s in March still and definitely get some snow. And I've had some of the most beautiful grafts go through because the colonies that will raise grafts are so powerful and so healthy, they just shrug off that cold. And also, my bees naturally are the biggest, most powerful colonies are trying to make swarm cells usually by the second week of March. And the colonies that I use to raise queen cells in, we add extra brood, we shake in extra bees. These things are abnormally strong. And so it doesn't matter if it's only a high of 38 the next day, they still do great. But they have plenty of food, tons of nurse bees, and they lack for nothing. Such a big population. Nope, wouldn't hurt to do it again. It is always a great idea to at least do two oxalic acid vapor treatments when the bees are broodless, because it's not a 100% kill with oxalic acid vape at all. And so you really want to clean up those colonies in wintertime. Give your bees a nice clean slate. I have not. This thing called the Bee Expo keeps getting in my way. I have done some of my yards. I did a video on applying formic acid. I don't know if I've released it yet or not. It's hard to remember what I've done. But we did drop formic acid in some of the colonies, and that did a great job. I've still got to do one round of oxalic acid vapor in December. Hopefully, we'll get a good 50-degree day. That's what I'm looking for. And then I have another yard I haven't done anything to since August. And so they do look really good, though. And so I'm going to be doing 2 rounds of oxalic acid vapor to them, um, and just letting them have it. But they look really good. 10 provinces and 3 territories. You guys still do territories? Do we do territories? I'm just joking. Hey, Christy, you made it. For those with Apame bottom boards, I found that using the Air Tool melt connector with an InstaVap works well. However, you need some insulator under the cup because it melts the landing board. That is one of the biggest problems with Apame hives is when using a vaporizer. I get a lot of questions about the Apame colonies, and they are one of the more expensive hives out on the market. But I've got to say, there's a lot of expensive hives that have come and gone over the last 20 years. The Apame hives have really lived up to the premium that they claim. They are a premium hive. They are so rugged. And after having them for several years now, I mean, everything still works. It's holding together. I don't see like any degradation except what a little bit of a sprayer with a little bit of bleach in it just to kind of whiten the look a little bit. But as far as structurally, so very strong, easy to move. I am really impressed. Now, I don't run that for all of my equipment because from a commercial standpoint, there are some negatives to that. But from a small scale beekeeper, if I was running like 20 hives, 50 hives, something like that, I would consider it just from the standpoint of how tough it is and some of the options that come with it. Like if I was going to do sell pollen, I would totally go that route. Well, we won't disappoint you. Thanks for buying the ticket today. Like I said earlier, the ticket price goes up tomorrow, so I'm glad you got in before it went up. Everybody, let your buddies know if they're planning to come and they haven't got their ticket, they need to get it. And we're going to run through this list really fast one more time. So the app is live. If you already purchased a ticket, it should have been sent out to you. Now, we've had a lot of tickets sell since the app went live. So we will be sending another email out. So if you've already got the app and you see it again, just ignore it. If you haven't got it yet and you've recently purchased your ticket, that would be why you haven't seen it yet. Down below, I'm posting the link once again. Oh, here it is. Come on now. This is the form to the North American Honey Bar. Like I said earlier, we won't be accepting all the honeys because we have 80 honeys from Kentucky and Tennessee apiece. but we really do need honeys from every state, especially the states that are going to be attended the least. And of course, all the Canadian areas as well, all the provinces and maybe the territories too. We're not going to get too particular with Canada. That's a big ask, and it's a long ways away. But we will be very thankful for whatever we can get to represent that part of North America. And if we can get all of them, we will gladly accept all of them. But this is our first year, and we're just going to see how it goes. I think it's going to be super fun for everyone. It's going to look really good. Paula's already got some great plans for it, and I've got a little bit of Hawaiian honey coming. I've got some Bob Benny honey coming. I've got some Mr. Ed honey coming. There'll be my honey there, and several of you have already talked about sending some as well. So thank you very much. But just be aware that we will be reaching out to you to confirm or deny your honey. And it's not because we want to deny it. It's just logistically, again, we cannot have 30 to 40 honeys per state. It's just too many. The VIP dinner is on Thursday night. There is still about 18 to 20% of the spots left. And so if you're serious about going and hanging out with the VIPs and us for 3 hours on Thursday evening, be sure to tune in for that. And we may open up some spots for the Wednesday event for anyone coming in early. That is still up for debate between me and Chris. Technically, I'm the boss, but Chris is right a lot. So we'll see how that one goes. We'll probably throw it to Laurel as the tiebreaker. That one will be more for some of the VIPs and the vendors. And so that should be really cool from a product side of things, getting to talk to the vendors about product. That'll be awesome. Be on the lookout, Canadians, for some things promotional just for you guys. The hotels, the Crown Plaza does have places for you to stay at. If it sells out, they still have spaces. They just are a little slow getting them up. There's going to be rooms opening up each week between now and the expo. So if you're wanting to be close to the event, within walking distance, and also if you're wanting to be where the VIPs are at and close to that hotel event or two, that's the place to do it. Also keep in mind for those who aren't staying there, they do have a lot of parking. But if you're not staying there and you're coming to the event, it may get really tight on parking. It usually does every year. So just be forewarned that it's going to be a little tricky getting some vehicles possibly in there if you're not actually staying at the Crown. Join the app. There's going to be a lot of things on the app. There's already companies promoting book signings. Well, maybe not on the app yet, but they're planning to, like the Kaylee Richardson and several other vendors using the app to promote unique events going on. So if you are interested in using the app, you can also build your schedule for everything that you want to do. I'm going to go see this talk. The app is very interactive, and the more you spend on it, the more you're going to get out of it. It is actually pretty cool. Okay. I think that's everything I have. I'm going to get back to the questions. Oh, man. Need to get that in writing. Chris, aren't you supposed to be doing something this evening? I thought you said you wouldn't be able to attend because you were, putting the kids down to bed and you just got home from your trip. Say it to my face, I'm just messing. All right. The problem is when it's just myself, it's hard. It's a lot harder. I realize now how good I have it because I can't keep up with the questions as well without Chris. It is. Some people talk about, you get a little bit of debris in there with that style of pollen trap, but it's easy to sift out of there. And I'm not worried about it. I don't put anything in my hive that's going to be a problem. Varroa mites in the pollen, that's just, to me, it's just kind of like pepper on mashed potatoes. It's really awesome. All jokes aside, you just sift it out and throw it in the freezer. A lot of the pollen I use goes to feed, to make pollen patties with a lot of my pollen, that I'm able to get the best pollen patty into these queen rearing colonies. But I really want to make a significant effort into multiple times a week eating pollen. And I'm going to be using my Apamate traps to do that this year. However, I do think there might be a couple companies doing Sundance pollen traps at the show and a couple other varieties. So there's a few different things. Yes, you most definitely can. I think it Chris, do we know when that shuts down? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's about time for a haircut, goodness. I'm in the warmest part of Canada, and I've got one colony that's hot that I've left them to fend for themselves. No wrap, just top insulation, but nice and heavy. So I'll see if they make it out of winter. Sounds like Jason's kind of indifferent whether they do or not. Well, hopefully they do, Jason, so we can hear you whine about getting drilled by them and all the honey at the same time. But maybe you can get a queen to replace that one and chill those bees out a little bit. Man, we all, especially the more hives you run into these situations. And we actually had a colony expire just in the last month or so. Same situation, just ill all summer. It requeened itself around June. And that new girl, man, mean bees. It wasn't if we were going to get stung, it was how many times we were going to get stung. And we would use extra smoke. We'd save it for last. It just one of those ill colonies that doesn't like people. So when they expired, we were kind of like, whew, thank goodness. We tried to requeen them once and they wouldn't take. Cayman, are you planning on selling nukes with Corey Stevens Queens again this year? Another pickup in Ohio? I'm not 100% sure if we're going to do that again this year. I'm really trying to gear back on the bee side of the business. I know we are going to be selling nukes, and I'm going to be actually going to the American honey producers in Tampa and leaving out on Tuesday for that meeting and that's what I need to be doing, I think, is spending more time on the industry stuff. We really have a lot of needs from an industry side of things. And I really think that we can do some good there. And not by myself, but it takes more than one or two people to accomplish these big goals. And I want to be able to assist in that arena. I've been asked to assist in several ways. And so that's where it's going to cramp my style on my beekeeping significantly. So if I do offer some of Corey Stevens Queens, I'm going to decide that on this trip with Corey, and it'll be more limited than last year. I'm confident. We will have still plenty of nukes. I am going to be selling a lot of my bees off this year, so that's going to help me produce even more nukes. But then as well, we will be offering some nukes from one of my buddies who we go through everything, and they are not Corey Stevens Queens, and they don't have the VSH traits, but they will be available early, and I'm hoping to have them available the last week of March for people who want to get a jump on their season and possibly make a super or two of honey like some of our people do. We have many reports each year of people making a super or two, but it's almost always from the Yankees. Sometimes we'll get some people in Tennessee or Kentucky, but most of the time we see it very consistent with people who buy our March nukes in Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan. It's just such a huge jump on their season. By the time their flow starts, these things are almost a double deep colony, especially if you have comb to give them. "35 days and Chris is slacking." No, Chris has been Chris has been working so hard. Um, yeah, he always takes a vacation this time of the year. So Chris works a lot like I do, and we don't work 40-hour weeks. Chris definitely doesn't at all. There's times of the year, and it's flexible. There's sometimes of the year we can be a little bit more chill about the schedule. Uh, but this time of the year, there's no such thing as the 40-hour week, and there hasn't been for a while. And so Chris really needed to get away. And I'll say that he's been on vacation while this app went down. So he hasn't really been on vacation. All the app questions, and I mean, we're talking hundreds of them. Chris has been dealing with that on his Thanksgiving. So it's really not, it's a vacation, but it's kind of not the traditional sense. But Chris and I both feel the same way. We really do love working on this kind of stuff. We really want to make this a great event for everybody, and we want to have a good time at the show as well. We want to just like you guys, we want to see things get better. Everybody, I think, should be wanting to get better. And it's not just for the sake of money. There's a lot of people that keep bees just for keeping bees, but you need to be able to keep them alive and have really good, healthy colonies. And so for some people, that's their progress. And that's what they want to see is more healthier colonies, more uniform, more enjoyment out of their bees. And so we want to help facilitate that at our show in every way possible. Really let you get to the show and just fall in love with the world of bees again. And that's the goal with this thing. And this North American honey bar, I think, is going to help you do that because there's going to be some wickedly cool honeys there. And I hope everyone will take a little bit of time to get to try some of all the cool ones. My honey's the best, by the way. So if you want to experience what amazing heaven tier level honey is, like they talk about in the Bible, that's my honey. Yeah, there you go, Keith. That's actually not untrue. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoy beekeeping so much, right? Most of my bee yards have zero phone reception. And so I can't be on my phone for hours. And when I am not in my bees, my phone's just dinging. It's like right now, it's just like I have an email coming from somebody in the UK. Oh, no, New Zealand. I've got an email from this person. I've got this. Here's a question on here. Here's someone on the app. Oh, it's Craig Midget again. Ignore. Um, oh, it's Tom again. Definitely ignore. All that kind of stuff. And most of it's great stuff. It's just a lot. Cell phones have kind of really, I think we're fixing to start seeing a change where people are, I know I'm starting to do it. And I know a couple of people who are as well, who are designating just no phone time because social media is just too much. It's not always bad, but you got to get away from that stuff. We definitely keep our kids away from it. They spend a lot of time outside, fresh air. They don't need to know all what's going on. That's right, Christy. I think you said that somewhere else. That's your birthday. So I really appreciate you spending your birthday with us. We're going to throw you a big party, but don't get buzzed on all the honey. Okay. You got to promise me that we do not offer services if you get out of control. We're not going to haul you back to your hotel. We'll just leave you there. Huh. Jed Thorne says, I wish I was on vacation. Jed, you got to prep for this Bee Expo and you just got married. You've got decades of your life doing the honey-do list. So you signed up for this. You had a honeymoon not too long ago. That'll last you another 20 years or so. 100%. I'm glad that you're going to be there, Brian. I feel we really need to all, in our own way, get more involved. Whining on the internet doesn't do anything. And here I am on the internet. I'm fixing to whine. No, seriously. We really need help. There's a lot of needs in this industry, and there are some people starting to get organized, and I want to contribute to that. And we need people like Brian. We need people like you all in all of your different areas to help. And we don't need people whose jobs are to do something on a state level to necessarily get outside of that. We're not asking that, but we need people on the state level. We need people at the club level. We need people who are close to the ports in Florida and Tennessee. Gosh, in Louisiana, Maryland, California, any area that has a major port that's getting stuff from Asia or any country that could possibly have an issue. We need beekeepers getting involved, asking their state inspectors and asking the right people, the state clubs, beekeepers, bee clubs, everybody going, hey, do we have a good bit of security? Do we have sentinel hives? Are we doing our part to ensure that the border of the United States is protected? Because right now, by the looks of things, what we've dug into, we don't feel very comfortable with trusting the government entities on our best interests. And I really don't think there's anything nefarious. Some people say that there is. I don't think that there is. I think they're just complacent. I don't think beekeeping is important to them. And it kind of makes sense. They deal with all kinds of other invasive species and they're servicing bigger industries, cattle industry. They're more concerned about, screw worms and various other problems. They're not concerned about tropicolaps. It's our job to get them there and where they have shortcomings to make up for it. So that's what I want to spend the next year or two really focusing on is doing what I can to get involved with the honey producers and any other organization, whether it's the ABF, the Bee Cause Alliance. I hope that you guys will look into that as well and see where you can help in that regard. When it comes to that, I'm going to be releasing a post really soon, probably within the next 7 days. And I'll be doing a video as well. And I think this is really important. And people, a lot of times, I feel the same way. We get tired of signing things like this will never go anywhere. I think this one's going to go somewhere. And I'm going to be asking for everybody's signature. And I want you to share it to every American friend you have, every Canadian friend that you have. This is a North American issue. Our bees do not recognize Canada or recognize United States. They'll fly right across it. And so will all these pests. We've got to work together on this issue. And I want everyone to sign. I want tens of thousands of signatures on this. And it is a petition to raise funding, awareness, and a plan to protect the United States, all this funding to protect the United States from tropicolaps and any other invasive species that we could possibly have. We need money and research going into what can best protect us, because Australia repulsed Varroa for a lot longer than we have it. Every day that we buy on these issues is a big deal because we can figure things out. And I'm not here screaming, and we'll be talking about this at the expo. I don't think that we're going to let tropicolaps do what it could do if we got caught with our pants down. But that's only going to happen if we put the work in. I'm not panicking over here. If anything, I'm excited in some ways that I see so many good people getting involved. I see the great research being done. I don't want it to happen, and I hope it's decades away. But I feel like the right people exist, and it's time to put all the pieces together, and it's time for all of us to work towards protecting the U.S. and Canada and to help one another out and protecting ourselves from tropicolaps and get the research, get the products developed before it gets here. But it's going to take some organization, leadership, and real work. And I need your help on these signatures. I really need a lot of signatures because we're a small industry. We need to rattle some cages on the government level. And we're going to. The proverbial squeaky wheel, we're going to annoy them until they just get so tired of us, they'll just say, fine. And if that's what it takes, that's what we'll do. That's what I did with Laurel. She was just like, no, And, I begged and begged, and she just finally got so annoyed. She said, fine, I'll marry you. Hey, whatever it takes, man. No shame. Hey, good deal, Eric. Glad to hear that about that nuke. Yeah, they would. And any Australian beekeepers that watch our program, I really want to urge you. I've seen a lot of this stuff online. I just get so much information. People send me stuff too. And there's a lot of Australians that are already going, yes, we're going to do VSH and all this kind of stuff. Great. Genetics is always part of the answer. But you guys are in your infantile stages. Heck, you're not even there yet. Most of you guys don't even have Varroa in your hives yet. Do not underestimate this pest. Like England, Europe did, like the United States did, like Canada did. And we have learned to live with it, but some of us still struggle with this because we still kind of take it a little bit too slow with Varroa. That's the number one problem I see with new beekeepers still in the United States is beekeepers waiting too late in the year to treat for Varroa or keep them low. And even the people who want to do the treatment-free stuff, it's so unrealistic to expect 100% for everything to be successful. Nature is not like that. It kills anything that does not meet its requirements, and it kills most things in nature because of that. the majority of swarms do not make it past their first year in the wild because there's a lot of things going against them. Not all bees are going to be perfect. And even if you graft from the same colonies after raising hundreds of queens, you'll see some queens that just don't perform good. Some genetics just don't work out great. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know all about genetics, but what I do know is underestimating Varroa is going to lead you to losses, and we don't want you to experience that. The best way for Australians and anybody listening to this is to monitor your colonies, monitor the mite loads, lower stress loads as much as possible. So don't let them get low on food. Keep a good queen in there. Have a backup plan. Have a plan, and keep those mites low early. I've never heard anybody complain about the results of treating their mites too early. They're the ones that are always telling me they've got more bees than they know what to do with. Those are the people that sell bees every year. I treat my bees a lot and I have great success. I'm going to be trying to do a little bit more dabbling into the genetic side of things this year. That's going to be one of the luxuries of having fewer colonies this year. Is I'm going to be doing more of the Golden West, Corey Stevens type stuff. But I'm going to be alcohol washing every single one of my hives. And then whatever doesn't make the cut, I am going to nuke. And I'm going to requeen that colony and see if I can get more uniformity there. But this is nature we're talking about. And I think a lot of times we have unrealistic expectations of what nature gives us. And I'll end it with this. It's an analogy I made on LinkedIn because there were people talking about how easy it's going to be for Australians to just start with VSH. Genetics have always been part of the answer, but let's look at heirloom tomatoes and apple trees. Apple trees, one of the biggest problems we have with those is a lot of the varieties that we have, we've been cloning for over a century. And we just keep cloning and cloning and cloning. Well, do you think that the bacteria and all of these blights and stuff are staying the same way year after year after year? No, they're continuing to micro evolve within their genetics, that, whatever they can express. But we're still cloning from stock that's old. And so with tomatoes and apple trees, same thing. I love the old heirloom varieties, but the reality of it is all the buddies that I know that make money growing stuff, they are not using most of the time 150-year-old varieties because they're getting open pollinated varieties, and they're going to be heirloom one of these days, but they're open pollinated varieties now that are resistant to these problems. So the genetics is part of the answer, but it just delays the amount of organic sprays that they have to use or mechanical removal that they have to do. So I think with beekeeping, we also have to be realistic. I think we put beekeeping in a shelf kind of above everything else. And like, these are a special critter and so different. And they're going to be able to figure it out. And it'll just be perfect if we just let it happen. This is the real world, and it's not that easy. And I want you guys to have very healthy bees and lots of them. So just keep that in mind going forward. That's my personal opinion on it. There's a lot of people that disagree, but you know what? I sell some of them bees. Good evening, Cayman. Did you approach any of the online beekeeping universities to attend the North American Honeybee Expo? Thank you. No, not really. There's a lot of things like that we'd like to do. We just don't have enough personnel. We can't even keep up with all the questions people ask from a day-to-day basis. Cayman, do you do this? Cayman, do you do that? What about our group? We've got, 5 people in our special demographic of beekeeping. And I know universities aren't that, but we have universities coming. We have the University of Auburn. We have Penn State. They're going to be doing awesome stuff at our show. Dr. Robin Underwood and some of the folks with Auburn are going to have a killer booth display, some stuff to show you about tropolalaps and other things that you can learn from them on their research. So definitely stop by their booths. We also have Project Apis M. We have a couple other companies that are working with universities. So we definitely want more of that, but we're just not quite in a position to do that. And we need more manpower. We need more manpower is what we need. And we're going to get it. We're going to do a better job next year getting more manpower. This is our first year with Chris, and he did an awesome job. And that's why we have the app. And also so much more stuff that we've added this year. But that takes a lot of labor. All right. Oh yeah, yeah, the whole border thing. That's the dumbest thing, and it's very frustrating. I was talking to a Canadian about this. Um, it would really be nice to if we could figure something out with the U.S. and Canada to where we could. I don't want to be like Europe in a lot of ways, but I do like the way that they have it to where people can go through the border. It needs to be a proper check through process, and that's the problem. Both the Canadians and the Americans have done a terrible job with their borders. Uh, Neither one of our countries should be proud of the way our borders have been handled. But when it comes to citizens of Canada and citizens of the United States, I think it should be way easier for us to do business with one another and way easier for us to travel. It makes sense. We both help each other out. Unfortunately, politics usually get in the way of all this stuff. And please do not start a bunch of stuff in the comments. You guys don't want to get that going because I won't talk about it. I'll shut this thing down. All right. All right. It is going to be great. You're going to have so much fun. Pick a cup. My recommendation is pick a couple of the talks you just can't live without. Make sure that you don't overbook yourself. The problem with our event is it's pretty big. There's a lot. So make sure that you go see the products that you want to see, do the stuff that you really want to do, but then the rest of it kind of don't plan too much. I think sometimes you can ruin your trip by just packing everything down to the minute. Allow some unique conversations to happen. Talk to some people. We've got thousands of great people at our show, and they're just fun to talk to about their beekeeping experiences. Make some new buddies. We see so many relationships built at this show, and make sure that you take the time to do that. Ooh, I need to drink some water. Sean, no poking the bear. Well, Sean's always poking the bear. Is this our coffee guy, Sean? So I want to say a big shout out to a couple people really quick. Sean with Copper Canyon is our coffee guy, and he has supported the bee industry, not just our show, but so many kids within the bee industry. He's also, who knows how many millions or billions of pollinator seeds they've planted, and they've really helped a lot with that. So if you're going to buy some coffee for somebody, at Christmas time, Copper Canyon is who I would recommend because you're supporting a beekeeping business as well and a family operation. Yeah, all the workshops are sold out. So that reminds me, and then it went. See, I don't know what it is. More and more this is happening. Is this getting closer to 40 where I'm just starting to like forget stuff? Okay, so we're going to have a Bee Expo special after this week. That is awesome. Wow. See, this is the problem, though. Unfortunately, we don't get to pick who we get to deal with. Sean has been really great from the coffee side, but there's always a con. There's always an angle. Sean gave out like 4,000 stickers with my face in a position that was not flattering. It was something weird like that. And then he just decided, this is the one, and then shared it with everybody. I have kids who went to our next gen program who are sending me like laptops or something they're using for school with my face on it. And it's on like my aunt's fridge. Like, so I go like for Thanksgiving and I'm looking at it. I had people who slapped it on my trailer. Thank you, my brother, Ethan, you traitor. Chris, I think did some of that too. There's just a lot of frustrating experiences I have to deal with because of Sean and his sticker issue. But he is actually promised to not do it this year, but he is going to do it to somebody else. So be looking out for unique stickers at the expo, not of Cayman Reynolds, but of other prominent people. Boy, I don't know if I should feel good about this or not, but I do appreciate what you're trying to do, Darren. I put it on the freezer next to Natalie. Oh goodness. Well, Jimmy, that's awful nice of you. I'm sure Natalie would not appreciate that if she knew. So he's talking about Natalie Summers, I assume. That's the Natalie I'm most familiar with, and Natalie, the fake Cayman Reynolds. Natalie Summers and her family will be at the show again this year, and they're part of our staff, and they've helped us multiple years with logistics behind the scenes. I want to say thank you to the Summers family. And, Natalie, of course, at this point is basically a basically a woman at this point. How old is she now? 17, thereabouts, pushing it. Maybe she'll be turning 17 after the expo. It's hard to believe. I think she was turning 12 after our first one, something like that. And of course, she may be taller than me now. There's a lot of people who say that she is. I'm not 100% sold on it yet. But just so that you know, Natalie, if you're watching this, it is not an accomplishment or anything to brag about to be taller than yours truly. I don't know. My mother disagrees with that. So I don't know about that, Tom. And my wife also disagrees with that. Are you serious, Jen? I haven't noticed it. I'm going to look at that thing after I get off this live chat. And if there's one of my stickers in there, I expect a discount on that clarifier. That's not satisfying the customer right there. Yeah, yeah. That was a good move on Foxhound's booth display. We used it a lot. It would have been great if it just wouldn't have had my face on it. They should have done some. I know it was more funny, but they should have done something that was a little bit more believable. Like if they had put Randy McCaffrey's face on there, some people would have you had to take 2 takes to make sure it wasn't actually him or something like that. But no one's going to think it's me unless there's like 3 of me stacked up on each other inside the suit. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff at the show this year. A lot of product releases at the show, big booths, lots of food. We're doing muffin and cookie logistics this year. Big shout out to Naroa for sponsoring that this year. Oh, by the way, and we'll be sending out an email, the global patty order. That's filling up, and we always sell out each year. We just do one semi load of it. That's hosted by Hilco. So if you're wanting to get in on the special rocket fuel patty pricing, then get with it. So I looked up on John's website and I looked on, Data and Man Lake. So if you buy a comparable patty and ship it to your house, you're paying $6.50 to $7 a pound for a 10-pound box of patties shipped to your door. And a lot of that's the shipping. You can get it at my show. Was it $2.05, $2.10 a pound? Something in that range is what you can get it. And this is not only fresh global patties that hasn't even been mixed up yet, but also it has 4% pollen and the Apis biologics. And the reason I went with Apis biologics is one, because he was actually crazy enough to do the deal. A lot of people wonder kind of how this stuff got started. A few years ago, we couldn't get a lot of people to work with us. They just didn't take us seriously. And hey, we were pretty young, and I don't blame them for that. But there were some companies that were willing to take a chance on us. Global was one of them, and Apis Biologics was another. And I said, hey guys, this is what we're wanting to do. Would you work with us on a price special for the show? And they said, yes, they would. And so we can get it for a fraction of the cost, fresh patties. And it's not just because Andrew did a favor for me that we put it in there. What I love about his ingredient for the pollen patties is it's not based on some type of essential oil, which is not found naturally in pollen. It's not based off of some other type of product that's not naturally found in pollen. The product is literally based off of pollen and what is naturally found in pollen. And he customizes this blend to the global patty to try to fill any gaps that the pollen patty has to mimic natural pollens coming into the colony. So if I'm going to have a supplement, that's what we're going to go with. And so I want to say a big thank you to those guys for doing that. That's all going through Hilco this year. So it's super easy. This is the easiest year yet. You go to Hilco, see their Bee Expo deals, global patties. You want one 10-pound box. You want 50 pounds. That'd be 5 boxes. Whatever you want, order it. John will have it and at the Hilco booth this year. Super easy process, but just make sure that you get it because when we sell out. That is all we're bringing to the show. Thanks, John, for doing that for me. That really helps me out. We've gone a couple different routes. We've done it ourselves. We've done it through some other people, but this is going to be a lot easier. You just go right to his place order and boom, just pick it up at the show. That's just not right, Drew. That is not right. So I'm going to add this up. This is the silent auction info, and we do appreciate every year people not only bidding on items, but also donating items and making items. I've seen several items already that are made for the silent auction. And if you would fill this out, it helps us so much to be able to know what to expect, and it helps our team out. And all of the money, 100% and more money that we donate on our end, goes to the Next Gen program to get all these great young beekeepers in. All right. The tall and short jokes, Jen. Yeah, well, as much as possible, I get somebody else to do the work for me. Kathleen's 13 now. She's doing quite a bit of, work around here. And, Jimmy, he does pretty good too. He helps me change the oil. Kathleen does too, but mostly Jimmy. And, they take trash with me and round up stuff. Jimmy does probably 80 to 90% of the dishes in this house. No joke. We ain't fooling around. Jimmy eats a lot, just like we all do. And we all make messes. Everyone's got to contribute to the family. There's no getting away from work. Might as well start now. We definitely don't want to take their childhood away from them, and we don't. But we're definitely not. They're not going to be 20 years old and not have to do anything, know how to do anything. So, Jimmy's the dishwasher, that's for sure. Which is great. I haven't had to do dishwashing in forever. I got to protect these hands. They're really sensitive. All that kind of stuff. All right. Any more questions about the expo? Any beekeeping questions? If not, I told Laurel I'd keep it about an hour. We're about an hour and a half into it, and I need to save my voice truly so that I'll have one for the show. I am looking forward to seeing you all there. So many friends. Be sure to stay tuned in. I appreciate everyone who's donating honey to the honey bar, who's going to our VIP dinner. I know that that's a big expense, and we try to get it as cheap as we could, and that's the best we could do. But we are looking forward to seeing you there. I just got confirmation that Mike Berry is also going to be able to be there. I wanted to invite him as part of the VIP dinner because Mike really is a VIP. We haven't asked him to speak yet, but Mike and his wife will be joining us on Thursday night. So I'm super excited. Mike is just a salt of the earth gentleman, and Jill must be fantastic. I haven't spent any time with her before, but she definitely is got to be great to be married to Mike. Cayman, will Maggie Gill be doing book signings at the expo? We have not confirmed that yet, but we are looking to do that, honestly. Kaylee Richardson probably will be. Maggie should do it if she's not going to. I'm sure she'll be in high demand. And I also will probably be doing a book signing at the show. More to be announced. So maybe we could schedule something for that, Chris, on the app, because you don't have enough to do. So it would be great to have maybe a book signing for multiple books at the show and do it all at once so people that wanted to do it could do that. Whew. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. I've got some more emails to send out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys. This is going to be an awesome show. My prayers are with you this holiday season, and for safe travels for all of us for the show, and for all the snow to stay up in Canada. We'll see you in the next video.